Well, hello there, and welcome back to our series of videos on the topic of cell division. So we're done with mitosis, and in this video we're going to start exploring the wonders of meiosis. And you might be like our friend here going, whoa, meiosis, sexual reproduction. Or you might be like our friend here, wondering what's the difference between meiosis or mitosis. Now don't worry, that's what the next few videos is about. So we're going to start our journey into meiosis by looking at some chromosome basics. Now in particular, I'm going to be introducing to you this term, homologous chromosomes. Right? It's not French or German, okay, it's English, homologous chromosomes. What is that? And what does it have to do with meiosis? In your textbooks, you can find the information on these pages. So let's get going. First, we're going to recap why meiosis. What is the purpose of meiosis? Well, actually, I already mentioned this way back in the first video. And there we saw that meiosis is a type of cell division which is involved in producing gametes, right? Gametes are your sex cells, and gametes have half the number of chromosomes of your normal body cells, right? They have a haploid number of chromosomes. Hopefully you still remember what that means. So meiosis is called a reduction division because it reduces the number of chromosomes in the cell. Right? The parent cell, for example in humans, the parent cell would have 46 chromosomes, but after meiosis, the daughter cells, the gametes which are produced, would only have half the number of chromosomes, which is 23. Similarly, in corn, right, normal corn cells, most normal corn cells have 20 chromosomes. But if you looked at the gametes of corns, so that would be like the pollen grains, the ovum in corn, well, they would only have 10 chromosomes. So that's half the number. And in cats have, most cat cells have 38 chromosomes. Well, if you look at the gametes of cats, so their sperm and their eggs, you'll find that they only have 19 chromosomes. Right? So meiosis is the type of reduction cell division that helps to produce these gametes with half the number of chromosomes. And that's very important for sexual reproduction. Right, so here it is in picture form. So here's our parent cell, and it has a nucleus which contains a diploid number of chromosomes. Right, so for example in humans, the diploid number would be 46 chromosomes. Right, and it goes through meiosis, this parent cell goes through meiosis to produce 4 daughter cells with half the number of chromosomes. So they have a haploid number of chromosomes. In this case, in humans, 23 chromosomes. So if we write it in a definition form, and it's important to get our definitions right, meiosis is a nuclear division. Okay, so to be more accurate, it's not really a cell division, it's a division of the nucleus. Now, this is similar to mitosis, which is also a nuclear division. So meiosis is a nuclear division where a parent nucleus, here, divides to form 4 genetically non-identical daughter nuclei. So they're non-identical because they do not have the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. Right? So they have half the number of chromosomes. So at this point, you might be asking a rather smart question, which is, why doesn't this parent nucleus with 46 chromosomes just divide into 2 nuclei? Why does it divide into 4 nuclei? Well, later on when we look at the process of meiosis, it will become clearer. So in this slide, I'm going to show you a big picture of what happens in meiosis. Basically, meiosis is made up of 2 divisions. You can divide meiosis into 2 big stages. There's meiosis I, which is the first division, and then this is followed by meiosis II. So let's take a look at our cartoon cell here for an example of what happens during meiosis. So this cell here is a parent cell with 4 chromosomes. 1, 2, 3, 4 chromosomes. And it is a diploid cell because it contains 2 sets of chromosomes. One set is from your father and one set is from your mother. Right? So for example, there's 2 long ones, right? One is from father, one is from mother. and there's two short ones. One is from father, one is from mother. Right, so this is one set, the father set, and then this is another set, the mother set. Right, so that's a diploid cell, two sets with 4 chromosomes. Now the first thing that happens is that the cell will replicate its DNA. Right, so the cell will go through interphase and it will replicate its DNA, replicate its chromosomes before starting to go through meiosis. So if you remember, that's exactly the same as what happened in mitosis. Right, so there's no difference yet from what happened in mitosis. In mitosis, the cell also went through interphase and replicated its DNA. So at this point, we can see now that the cell here, after replicating its chromosomes, still has 4 chromosomes. 1, 2, 3, 4. However, now each chromosome is made up of a pair of sister chromatids. Right? So you can see this chromosome here now has a pair of identical sister chromatids. So what we say is that now in this cell we have 4 replicated chromosomes. And it's still a diploid cell, right? Because you still have the father set and the mother set. Now after replicating the chromosomes, the cell will then start going through meiosis. And first there will be Meiosis I. So in Meiosis I, the parent cell divides into 2 daughter cells. And what happens is that the pairs of homologous chromosomes separate. Now, what does it mean by homologous chromosomes separate? Now, look back at this cell here. Remember that I mentioned just now that, these chromosomes are paired up, right? So the 2 long chromosomes are paired up. One is from your father, one is from your mother. And what you can see is that during Meiosis I, these 2 chromosomes are separated, right? So now the long chromosome, one long chromosome ends up here, and the other one ends up in the other daughter cell. So this pair of chromosomes here is known as a pair of homologous chromosomes. So this pair of homologous chromosomes is separated, and this pair of homologous chromosomes is also separated. And now each daughter cell contains 2 replicated chromosomes, right? So that's 1, 2. And this daughter cell, 1, 2. So 2 chromosomes in each daughter cell, but they're still replicated, right? So that's why they look like a pair of sister chromatids. So you'll realize that at this point in time, right, the reduction has already taken place, right? So we started with a parent cell with 4 chromosomes, and now each daughter cell has only 2 chromosomes. So the reduction has already taken place, and now each of these daughter cells is already considered haploid. Alright, so finally after Meiosis I, we have Meiosis II. And what happens during Meiosis II? Well, each of these daughter cells will then divide to form another 2 daughter cells. And what happens in Meiosis II is that pairs of sister chromatids separate. So you can see this pair of sister chromatids separates out. So there's one here and one here. This pair of sister chromatids has separated. There's one here and one here. So at the end of the day, what you get is 4 haploid daughter cells, right? 4 haploid gametes, and each of them contains 2 chromosomes, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so this is meiosis, right? Let me go through it, summarize it for you. Right, we start with the parent cell. DNA is replicated, so the chromosomes are replicated. The pairs of homologous chromosomes separate during Meiosis I, and then the pairs of sister chromatids separate during Meiosis II. So we're going to end off this video by talking just a bit more about what are homologous chromosomes. So here are the chromosomes found in a typical human cell. There are 46 chromosomes, if you count them, okay? You can pause and count. There's 46. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And the 46 chromosomes are arranged into 23 pairs. Pair 1, pair 2, pair 3, pair 4, pair 5, and etc. So if you take a look at this pair here, right, we call this a pair of homologous chromosomes. And in the pair of homologous chromosomes, one of them comes from your mother and the other one comes from your father. Right? So we can say that in human cells, there are 23 pairs of homologous chromosomes. Right? Especially in the case of a female, which has 2 X chromosomes. So how do we decide which chromosomes pair with which ones? Well, take a look at this pair number 2 here. So you realize that pairs of homologous chromosomes have the same length, they have the same shape, and they also have the same genes at the same positions. And that kind of is shown by the same pattern of bands. Can you see the pattern of bands on the chromosomes? So these 2 chromosomes here, this pair here, have the same pattern of bands, right? They both have this very thick band here, and the band here, and the band here, and the band here. So this tells us that these 2 chromosomes here have the same genes at the same position. So if you look at this position, you will find the same gene. You look at this position, you'll find the same gene. So every individual, every person has 2 copies of that gene, right? One from the mother and one from the father. And you'll find it at the same position on the homologous chromosomes. So here it is in diagram form, right? Here is your pair of homologous chromosomes. Okay, one comes from your father, one comes from your mother. And you see that pairs of homologous chromosomes have the same shape, right? Same shape, same length, and also the same genes found at specific positions called loci. Now the singular for loci is locus. So for example, over here at this position on the chromosome, so I shall call this the locus. So at this locus on the chromosome, you will find the same gene, the E gene. And this E gene may represent a gene, for example, a gene that controls hair color. Alright, so let's say this position here, on this chromosome, you will find a gene here that controls hair color. Then on the homologous chromosome, at the same position, you will also find a gene that controls hair color. So every individual has 2 copies of the gene for hair color, right? One from the father, one from the mother. Now, even though homologous chromosomes have the same genes at that locus, they might have different forms of that gene. And the different forms of the genes, we call it alleles, right? So for example, here, at this locus may be the gene for hair color. However, your father might have given you the version of the gene for black hair. So this is the black hair allele for black hair. And your mother might have given you the version of the gene for brown hair. So this is the allele for brown hair. And we represent it using different letters. So I might represent the allele for black hair as capital E, and I represent the allele for brown hair with a small e. And I use E for both because they are both genes for hair color, right? They control the same trait, so I use the same letter for them. But different, one is capital, the other one is not capital because they're different versions of that gene. So here's a second example. At this locus here, so this is another locus, you might find a different gene, the gene for eye color. But your dad might have given you the version for black eyes, and your mom might have given you the version for blue eyes. Now sometimes the versions from your father and mother are exactly the same. So you might also find the same allele, right, but not always. So we're going to go into the details of meiosis soon, and we're going to be using this simplified cell to help us. So in this cell here, how many chromosomes are there and how many pairs of homologous chromosomes? Now hopefully you can see that there are 4 chromosomes and there are 2 pairs of homologous chromosomes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 chromosomes, 1 pair, 2 pairs. So what happens when this simplified cell goes through meiosis? Well, in the next video, we are going to be learning together about the different stages of meiosis. So we'll start off again with interphase, which is technically not in meiosis. And then we'll look at meiosis I, which is made up of 4 stages. And then we'll look at meiosis II, which is made up of 4 stages as well. Okay, so we'll see you